Alright, so the next thing to do is to basically clean up the animation and make it cyclable. So some of them, like idle, might be kind of hard, action might be kind of hard, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fix locomotion because I feel like that one's the most obvious thing to try and get to be cyclable because it's meant to be a walk, right? So I already got my 2 steps here. They're not perfect and they will not cycle. But we're going to go with that anyway. So I'm just going to select one, and you see it goes to 48 is the last frame, and then it goes to the next thing. So I'm going to go ahead and make my range slider 48. So that way when I hit play, it's basically going to show me the 48. Okay, so right off the bat, what we're going to do is we're just going to try and make this guy on center as best we can, and we'll go from there. So I'm going to select this locator. There might be 2. I noticed I have 2 of them. I don't know what this one's for. Oh, this is character 1 reference. I never referenced anything. Can I delete it? Okay, let's undo that. Don't delete it. Let's leave that one there. Okay. So if you go to grab it and you don't get the one you want, just hold Shift, click, and drag, and it'll grab the other one because they're on top of each other. Anyway, so like I didn't get it there, so I'm gonna hold Shift and click and drag, and I'll get the one I want. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the first frame here. And I'm going to go ahead and be like, okay, I want you on center. I'm just going to switch to a top view. Alright, so we're going to say roughly there. And I'm going to hit S to key. I'm going to go to the last frame. And I'm going to put him back on center again. Ish. So S. Make sure. So generally, we want to try and make his hips the center. Good. So I'm hitting S to key and S to key. Okay, good. So it's not perfect. In fact, it's not even good, but it's a start. Okay, so it does, but you can see the sliding's a little inconsistent because his walk's got almost kind of a pause in between it. So this makes it a good example and a bad example because it's a good example because it's actually hard. If you're doing a normal walk, you can, for the most part, probably just keep having it slide. But with this, I'm gonna have to add a little bit of a stutter. So I'm gonna go ahead and go. Okay, he makes the step right about 20-ish. So I'm gonna key it here. So I'm going to say, boom. And I'm actually going to go a little bit farther than what it currently is. Key it, okay. So that looks pretty natural. And then the next step comes right around 33, we'll say. Moves back a little bit. Ish. And, back up this way. Make sure I hit key S. Okay. And then next step. Okay, so let's see. So we could probably move this way a little bit. And maybe move this back a little so there's a little bit more movement. Okay. It's not terrible, but you could see you could kind of use this, right? So I'm just moving this locator because obviously he was walking past it, but by sliding it back, it kind of keeps him moving that way, right? So we're just trying to mimic his sort of thing here. So okay, so it's not great. It's going to need a lot more tweaking. We could work on that later. Now the other thing you need to do, if you remember, is that you need your first frame and your last frame to basically be the same, right? So if I start here, this is where this one should look like. And if you look, they don't look that much alike. No siree, they do not. So we could do a couple of different things to try to achieve that, but probably the easiest way, well, it's not really the easiest way, but the way we're going to do it is I'm just going to copy the one and paste it on the other. So I kind of, this one looks better to me than the other one, so I'm going to go to this one, and what I'm going to do is go to locomotion, and I'm going to select objects, so that should select everything in there. Okay, then what we're going to do is I'm going to go here, I'm going to right click, I'm going to go copy, and you're going to see it's going to immediately break it, and right click and go paste, and paste. Ba-doop. And the reason why it breaks it is if you remember, this is, look where it is in relation to this. We've been sliding this guy back, right? So if it slid all the way back, it's going to be right there. So that doesn't, so from here to here, it's a bit of a problem. Okay, so we could do a couple different things to try and solve that. But probably the easiest way, because I'm trying to make it exactly the same, is to actually, so it's 44 and 48, okay? Is to actually take this guy and go to where I was here. So 44, I'm just going to go ahead and key it there. Okay, but then 48, I'm going to copy this first one. So I'm just going to middle mouse button click and drag back here and then hit S. You could also right click and copy and paste like we did before. And that way it'll move forward enough where it should match. And you can see it's now looping. Now, it's not the greatest looking loop. In fact, I would say it's bad. But it is sort of working. So now we just need to clean up some of the actual animation stuff. And most of this deals with like pruning and that sort of stuff. Okay, so this is how I go about doing it. You can choose your own way. So I'll just do the most obvious things that are bad first. So right off the bat is that right here to here, there's kind of a big twist. Right, so like there's a big twist there, and he twists a decent amount here, but then there's not that much twist until the end here, right? So I'm gonna grab this guy, and I'm gonna go to, I guess we go to Windows, and actually I'm gonna set this up for animation. So let's go Panels, and we're gonna do Layout. So we're gonna do 2 panes stacked, and Panels, Panel, Graph Editor. Okay, so on locomotion. And what I'm worried about, I'm going to hit E, is my rotate X. So I'm going to go rotate X. I'm going to hit F for frame. And we can kind of see it here. So you see there's this sort of bellow kind of curve thing. So I'm actually going to take a bunch of these and delete those. Delete these. I'm going to take this guy and make it a flat tangent. Maybe. Why, you know, flat. Tangent. That's weird. Let's undelete all those. I'm going to pause this for a second. Well, that I've never seen before, but I did find a solve. So basically, with this selected, go to Curves, Change Rotation Interpolation, and then Independent Euler. That's how you say it, believe it or not. And then, boom, the handles come up. I don't know why they weren't coming up before. And actually, I'm going to turn this other thing up too on active keys. Okay. I was trying to solve it that way. So anyway, you can see I have this thing, but these aren't really adding any information. So what I'm going to do is actually delete these and delete these, and then we'll see how that looks. Okay, so it goes down to the widest, and then to the widest. So you can see that's a little bit better because now there's a nice even flow from one to the next. All right, so let's just tap spacebar and make sure that looks good. Okay, so the other thing I'm noticing, besides the rotation, is that it seems like it slides kind of back and forth a little bit right here, right? So if I look at my move, it would be basically, it looks like my X. But if you look at, see it's showing world, that might not be what you want. So we're in, my axis rotation is world. I want to go by object. That way I can actually see what I'm looking at. So you see it's actually more Z. This is the object's rotation. If you have on world, no matter what, it's always the world. If I select this, see it looks like this. If I select this, no matter what, all of them are the same as this down here. I want to go to Object, and that way it'll actually show the independent objects rotations or orientation. So I'm going to go like that. So it's going to be my Translate Z. You can see again, it's kind of real boogery, right? See how it's kind of up and down? Some of that's okay because I think it adds a little bit to it, but some of it not. So I'm actually going to delete these two. I'll delete this middle one. I feel like these aren't really adding that much. There's that one. And then we'll get rid of that one, and we'll see how that looks. It still is right. See right here, it kind of goes up and then back down. Let's take this. I'm just gonna move this down a little bit. So I'm holding Shift and middle mouse button, and I have the Move tool selected. And we're gonna go more like that. Let's see how that looks. So it's not too bad. It's a little bit of a hiccup. But it's also, if you look, it's not just my X, it's also, or just my Z, it's also my X. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through here and kind of clean it up as well. Take out what I can. Let's just move this, like, and get rid of these and this. I'm going to take this one, maybe move this one this way a little bit. You got to be careful about doing too much, because then you're just going to make it weird. As you can see, like I did there. So that actually made it worse. Let's see, if I took out that much, is that enough to... Yeah. But if you can prune a little bit, just to kind of clean it up, like these aren't really doing anything. But you have to be careful about... So that's not too bad. Okay, so I'm looking at the arm, right? So that arm is pretty not okay. So there's a bunch of parts I don't like about it. This left arm in particular. Okay, so I'm going to select my left arm here. But I would start proximal to distal, meaning do this one first, make sure this looks good, and then go through and fix the others. But you can see his arm's clipping his body there. But even on the upswing, I'm not super happy with it. So, see right here, it looks kind of twisted. So what I'm going to do is rotate it, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to put auto key on, so this will automatically key whatever it is I'm doing. So I'm just going to kind of rotate it this way so that it's not as twisted. And let's see, that's a little bit better. And, okay. Okay. And it seems a little close to the body here, so I'm just going to take it and pull it out a little bit. Maybe rotate it out this way a little bit. Alright. And then here, just going to rotate it out a little bit as well. A little bit of twist. So that looks a little bit better. And here, it's kind of flapping in a little bit again, so I'm just going to kind of pull it out. And then his arm's going to go back. And notice that I'm trying to put the keys where there's already keys, so that way I'm not dealing with... I'm just going to kind of move it back and over so that he doesn't clip his body. And then 36, you can see, he's going to cut through his body here. So I'm just going to kind of twist it and go like this. And then 40, he totally clips through his body, so I'm just going to pull it up a little bit, maybe twist it a little bit. I don't want to try and change it too much, unless it's like way off, but I think this is probably pretty close to what his body was doing. It's just that because it's 3D and there's no collisions, you know, it might have a little bit more difficulty. Okay, yeah, it's like, I doubt his body was doing that. So try not to override too much. And then I got to copy what this one is, so I'm going to just middle mouse button, click and drag, and S. And that should be a little bit better. And I'm playing it backwards. I thought that looked weird. And you can see, let's do show none, show polygons. Right, you can see that looks a little bit better on his arm. There's obviously some deformation issues because I didn't paint the weights well, but you can see his arm's definitely a little bit cleaner. And I could go through and add more to it as well. Like maybe I'd want to like mess with his fingers and things like that too. And on top of it, also going through and, you know, going to these different rotates and then looking and seeing like, okay, that is some stark rotation. Let me see something. Where's that Euler filter? Where are you? Curves, Euler filter? Is that going to clean that up? No. Okay, so let's do that thing I did before. For whatever reason, it seems to be the rotations. Let me see, like this rotation, but look, a lot of the rotations, these all have their Bezier curves, but for some reason the rotations just simply do not. So I'm going to go to curves, and we're going to, yeah, it was under curves, right? Change rotation and independent Euler. Yeah, that's a little bit better because now I can actually see what it looks like. Okay, so I could look at this and then just try to make this a little bit cleaner. So you see right here, notice that his arm's actually getting pinchy right there because this little hiccup here. So if I actually get rid of that, it'll probably, it still looks like crap. Let's get rid of this one too. Yeah, so let's get rid of that, and let's get rid of all these. You just have to be careful though, because some of the nuance of like what makes it look realistic is those little bumpies. Normally in animation, we're always trying to, I'm just going to make this a flat tangent. We're usually trying to keep things nice and smooth and have a nice curve. But in here, that might not be the best thing to do. So, but I'm going to see if I get rid of some of this stuff like that. If that would actually be an improvement. Let's see, rotate that or delete that out. So it's not too bad. There's a little bit of like a hiccup, but I think it's from his hips, and I think to some extent that's it looks like a zombie walk. But yeah, so you might want to prune a little bit if you can help it. If there's a bunch of extra like keys, it just makes it easier, honestly, for you to work as well. And things like that. And then just generally try to clean it up. But now you can see that this guy is at least somewhat looping. Look at his face. Oh, God. It's frightening. You need some weight paint. But anyway, you can kind of see he's kind of doing the walk or whatever. It's not a bad start. I'd want to clean up these feet and like manually animate them to some extent so that they actually make contact. Why not just do that? Show all just so I can show you. So what I'm going to do is go from here. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to manually try to fix it so his feet are actually on the ground. Right? And so I guess here we'll also try to manually keep it on the ground. Alright, like that. And then 8, that looks pretty good. And that's pretty okay. And I like that. But then see how it stays there? So he's like, boom. I would maybe go 2 frames after, and I'm just actually going to make his feet like hit the ground. Like so. And it looks like it's making contact. And I'm going to do, let's go to the graph editor, see what we got going on there. Let's have to frame it, and that's way too many things. So let's look at the rotates, and F. And can I see, I don't know why they're all like this. Let's do all of them, and we're going to do curves, change. I don't know why they're doing that. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of all of those. And let's go here and just make sure that it's still on the ground. So I'm going to go from here, middle mouse button, click and drag, and I'm going to, let's see, can I do it here? No, we're going to go channel box, and I'm going to, so I went to here, but the only thing, I don't want to key everything, because see how the foot is moving back, but I do want to key my rotates. So I'm going to middle mouse button, click here, and then on the rotates alone, click and drag, right click, and key selected. And that way it'll keep those rotates. And then I'm going to see if this works. Curves. So sometimes they'll have this thing where, see how like these look kind of the same. Like if you look at this foot and then you look at this foot, it looks kind of the same. But in between it's going blah, 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 blah. Sometimes you end up with a weird hiccup. It's either going to be a, what do you call it, gimbal lock, or, and this one's not, because I can tell by the way that the graph looks, or what you can do is you go curves, and you do Euler filter, and that tends to fix some things. Notice that the curve is much more straight now. So now that goes back there, and we'll just make sure this foot here is rotated better. And then I need to make sure 48 is the same as 1 now. Yeah, so let's take this and just key it so it's the same there. Okay. So now if we were to look at his foot, right, see how it's just making better contact? Although in the middle here it's looking a little bit pointed down. But that's a better foot than this one where he's kind of leaning in on it. So I would fix this foot too. Even this one needs a little bit of work. If you look in general, see how his feet look a little bit to the side here? You can actually, we could fix that too. So I can either slide the feet over, or I could slide the hips over. Now the hips, if I did it, I'd have to do it on every frame, as well as the feet. And it's hard because he's walking diagonally. So let's do it with the feet. So I'm going to select both the feet. And what I want to do is I want to basically move them on X, right? I want to move them X over this way a little bit. So with both feet selected, I'm going to see this one says left ankle. That's one of the ones I want. And I want the translate X. And I'm going to hold Control or Command if you're on a Mac and translate X. Then I'm going to grab all the keys right here. And then holding Shift and middle mouse button, make sure you got the move tool on. I'm going to pull them. Okay, apparently translate X is not the one I wanted. I want translate Z. That's not what I thought I needed. Okay, let's try translate Z. So holding Shift, there we go. And I'm going to point them a little bit down. If I drag them up and down, globally changing their values. I'm just going to pull them back this way a little bit. And then I'm pushed backwards. Looks like they could maybe move a little bit more. Yeah, looks a little bit better. Anyway, yeah, so there you go. So you're just going to clean them up. So that would be one done. Then I would do is go to action. So I'd go to action. And then I'm just going to extend this out. See where action starts. Starts at 50. And it ends at 146. So I would just go here, go 50, go 146, and then I would just work on this segment here. And there's some obvious stuff with the arms here, so you could just as easily go like this if you want to do it real quick. I'd be okay, looks good, looks good, looks terrible, looks terrible, looks terrible, then looks good. So all the ones that are terrible, so from 94 to 100. So boom, to here. I'm just going to right click over them and hit delete. Okay? And then that gets rid of the bad ones. We'll do the same thing here. So from 94 to forever. So 94 to something. So we're just going to grab a whole bunch of this and just delete it. And then what I'm going to do is when's the next key for this one? Try and make it the same. Okay, so at 110, I'm going to take this and just settle it back down like so. It goes up. And then I would just delete the rest of these. Delete. And then you're just going to have to manually animate it, you know, moving down and out. So I would just use the one hand as a guide. Like there's a nice little, when this arm comes down, you can see that the elbow like hits and reflects back. That's really nice. Like watch. See how there's a little dut when he comes down, which is really nice. See? So I would try to mimic that on that side. Like literally just do the exact same thing and just do it from the left side to the right side. Because right now I just got him kind of stiffly having his arm, but I would fix it that way. And then do the same thing we did before where I would take this and I would key, is that it or is this one it? This one's it. Take this and then I would just key it, you know, so he's in the center, kind of a thing. and then just make sure he stays in the center. So from here to here, so 50 to 94, 93. Then I'd have him jump. And maybe take this guy and bring this one like over here. Never mind. He's got to go like way back over here. So that once he lands, he's back on the spot. Okay. But I'd fix this up too and make it that it loops so that this last frame would look like this first frame would look like the last frame. You can see there's definitely some differences between them. Like we'll just do this. So I'm going to select all. How I did it. Oops, that's not what I meant. Where are you? Action. Select objects. And then, so he lands, and this is nice. But then from here to here, it doesn't really do too much. So I'm just going to grab all of these, delete those, grab this guy, middle mouse button, key it. Okay, so if you look, see how his feet are sliding. Is that where his feet are on the other one? Okay. Oh, because that's, so remember the same problem. So maybe what I would do is instead of making it an exact duplicate, God bless it, Q, Control Z, okay. Let's go object mode. There we go. Okay. So select objects. Still get rid of all of this. And then what I would do is unselect his feet here. That way they're the same. And then copy this over here. S. It looks like it keyed his feet anyway, didn't it? Is it the same? Yeah. Alright, well then I might just do the thing I did before where you have to like take this and key it over and all that. But make it so it loops. Alright. Otherwise I'll be doing this forever. So that's basically what you're going to do is you're going to try and clean it up as best you can and make loopable stuff. So good luck to you.